everybody. Welcome to 2021 and welcome back to the Spark Systems webinar series. It's great to have everyone with us today, and it's great to start off the year with a brand new webinar on collaboration and visualization in Enterprise Architect 15.2. For those that don't know me or who haven't heard the Sparks webinar series before, my name's Scott Hebbard, I'm Communications Manager, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by Estelle, who is our Publicity Manager and Digital Marketer Extraordinaire. So welcome, Estelle. How are you today?
I'm really good, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that introduction.
Yeah, no problems. So for people that haven't met you before, perhaps you could give us a little bit of background about your history at Spark Systems and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I've been at Spark Systems for well over a decade now. I started in sales and have moved through to events and marketing. I've been in a marketing position for, oh dear, nearly 9 years now.
A long time.
Yeah, it has. I see my job as connecting people with the tools and services that they need. So it's really great to be presenting here today, and hopefully we can demonstrate some of the really great features that people are going to appreciate in this release.
It's great to have you here with me, so that's fantastic. So we might dive into the content, and so today's presentation, we're going to look at the capabilities offered through the new collaborative and modeling enhancements in Enterprise Architect 15.2, and those are very substantial. So following this presentation, I hope our audience will be able to walk away with a few ideas that complement and enhance your existing workflows using EA. And I can say that nearly every one of these features I use on a daily basis at Sparks, and they're really, really quite powerful. So you can see that we're going to cover the model chat, focus windows, collaboration windows, inspector window, enhanced reviews, and dashboard views. So there's lots of great content to get into, and I look forward to talking about it. So first of all, if you haven't seen it, model chat capabilities include one-to-one chat, so you can speak to members of the team, model notifications, and collaboration diagrams, so that you can see who you're talking to and start up a conversation. The collaborations window, this helps you manage your collaboration history. So you can see your previous chats, your model mail, any comments, and I know at Spark Systems, we use this feature every single day. So there is a reviews feature, and this allows you to review, create formal reviews within Enterprise Architect and manage that process. There's a focus window, and I'm going to talk about this in more detail, but it helps sharpen model navigation, allows you to move rapidly through the model, allows you to revisit items, do quick finds, develop working sets, and manage your model views, which is fantastic. And the inspector window, helps give you a deep dive into an element structure, and we'll talk about that too. And finally, we've got dashboard view, so you can take your charts and elements and manage the way they are presented and viewed, and it allows automatic sorting and layout of chart and graph elements, which is quite powerful. So there's some of the things that we're going to cover today. So we're talking about collaboration and visualization. So why is that so important? Well, there are a number of different benefits to collaboration and visualization. So some of those include things such as improved communication and the ability to share ideas and discuss problems as they arise. You have enhanced project management. You can organize discussions based on an element. It helps to support model-based communication. You can have conversations and information when and where you need it in the model. You don't have to use 10 different tools. Everything you need to collaborate is in a single tool, and that's Enterprise Architect. It helps to provide easy navigation via the model, manage and keep track of progress, improve reporting and tracking, track and record decisions, and team members can be anywhere, which is great for staff that are working from home or working remotely. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I'll talk about how to submit questions. We'll discuss collaboration and visualization in Enterprise Architect 15.2. We'll look at collaboration, inspector, and focus windows in Enterprise Architect, and we'll have Q&A with the audience at the end. Please note that audio is muted for all participants and you'll be able to type questions to the host. And as always, if we can't answer all questions live, we'll follow up offline. The question dialog in GoToMeetings are typically on the right of screen, so you can enter text and hit send or hit enter on the numeric keypad, and that'll come through to myself as the host. I think we've already got a question saying hello from Dennis in Berlin, and we have a number of different customers from all around the world, so it's great that some people have already used the question dialog and have reached out to us, so thank you for that. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to hand over to Estelle, who's going to look at the collaboration and chat feature. And please feel free to resize the window if that's relevant so that it fits your individual needs.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you are the collaboration notifications new in Enterprise Architect 15.2, which you can see now in the top right-hand corner. This red dot lets us know we have a new chat or element discussion notification. When we open the chat from Eliza, we can see it opens in the new Collaborate window, which is the new place to send and receive chats. Peer-to-peer chat is new in Enterprise Architect 15.2 and is a great way to promote the flow of collaboration. To create a new chat, select the hamburger in the Chat tab and go to User Chats, select Chat Group. Then browse through the directory until you find who you're looking for. One other way of keeping informed of collaboration in the model is monitoring element discussions. Right-click, Collaborate, Monitor Discussions. Now anytime there is a new element discussion, notification will appear in the top right-hand Collaboration Notification area. The next feature I want to show you is collaboration diagrams. Collaboration diagrams allow you to model actors to represent members of your team or organization. Once created, the actors will display a notification icon, which you can now see on Oliver James here, which you can click to open the chat in the Chat tab. You can also right-click on the actor to begin a new chat. To set up a collaboration diagram, open the Docked Properties window. There are a few options to set up your collaboration diagram, including alias or locking user. To set up by alias, we enter the username of the user in question into the alias field of the element's properties. To set up by user lock, each individual user has to lock their own element to them by selecting Lock Element, User Lock. I'll now show you the Collaborations window, which is the new place to view your broader history of collaboration in the model. From here we can see reviews, element discussions, comments, and chat history. We can change the visible timeline depending on how far back we want the history to go. Also in the Collaborations window is Model Mail. Here we can see a new Model Mail, which is actually an approval reminder. This lets us know that there is a formal review requiring our attention, which is a good way to the formal review enhancements in this version. Here we can see a review diagram. Once we've joined the review, right-click, Join Review. We can begin to see the discussion history in the review in the Collaborate window. Now that the discussion has been resolved to our satisfaction, we'll approve the review by drilling down to our icon and selecting Status Approved. To view a broader view of reviews in the model, we can open the Manage Reviews window. New in this version is the ability to toggle and filter the reviews. From here, I'll show you how to send an approval reminder, such as we received a little earlier in the model mail. This creates a pre-formatted approval reminder ready to send to the appointed approver. The last thing I'll show you is the new status locks. With this feature, we can lock any review based on its status. So for now, I'm going to prevent any further changes or discussions on this review. as it's approved or implemented. Okay, so now for the demonstration of the inspector window, I'll hand you back over to Scott Hebbard.
Thanks, Estelle. That's great. So just while I'm getting sorted out here, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how you use some of those features at Sparks on a daily basis, Estelle.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously we have group chats, which are wonderful for keeping in touch with the team. And then the individual chats, of course, staying in touch. We have collaborated a great deal, Scott, on this particular webinar. I particularly enjoy the collaboration diagrams simply because it allows me to organize sort of my top priority contacts, and I can see who has messaged me. It's nice to have a visual reminder of that, and then I can interact with those actors and send chats from there, and also view collaborative information, such as we at Sparks likes to keep a journal of what we've been up to in the comments field of in the Collaborate window. So when I click on any particular user on my Collaborate diagram, I can open that up and see where everyone has gotten up to in their day. So that's my favorite feature of this release.
I think it is something that you end up using every day, and it's great. People can be spread out over different cities and different locations, and you can always keep up to date and know what people are doing. So I find that really quite valuable. So I might dive into the inspector window now and have a chat. So especially in these current environments and times, there are lots of people that are currently working from home or working remotely. So Enterprise Architect has been built from the ground up to support collaboration and to allow teams to work together, whether they're located at work, be it a kitchen bench, a local cafe, a quiet library, or an airport, as shown on the diagram. So all you need is a network connection and access to a central repository. And it's really great having one tool, which is Enterprise Architect, which can allow you to do all of these things. So first thing we're going to look at is the inspector window. And the inspector window, you can see a description here from the help file, provides a facility for examining the details of an individual element. So we're going to look at some of this in detail. And I've created an airport model, and I'm going to use this airport model to help illustrate some of the points. So you can see the inspector window. I've got a couple of connections to domain objects, a Kanban diagram for our airport terminal digital transformation project, and I've also got a use case for the Launchpad. Now the inspector window can be accessed by selecting Start, Design, and then selecting Inspector. Now it's context sensitive, so whenever I select an element on a diagram, such as this domain object, and I select webinar, then it automatically brings up all of the attributes for that particular element. Now this is a simple class diagram that says a webinar has many presenters and sessions, and you can see that from the inspector window, there are some relationships and some discussions. So the discussion says the webinar needs to include a target audience, and the admin has told us that the date should also appear in the web session, not the webinar itself. So this is a very typical workflow that we have at Spark Systems, where the COO or CEO will send a message out, or project manager will send a message out, and so then you can use that information, which is stored in the model, and we can create a new attribute. So you can see I'm using a context menu on the left of screen to add a new attribute called target audience. Now, because this is a class diagram, I can select from an integer or a Boolean, but in this particular case, we just need a string to store that target audience value. So I have now updated the attribute, but I need to delete date, and that needs to be moved from webinar into webinar session. So you can imagine that this is an automated webinar process that's being developed as software, and we're going through the process of updating our domain model so it's more accurate. So now the date has been moved out of the webinar and put in the webinar session, which is more accurate. We're going to store it as an integer, although on some systems they might have a date time value to store that. But in this particular case, we're storing it as an integer. Now, the great thing is that I can go to my discussions, and you can see the collaborate window that Estelle was talking about is shown on screen. And I've said the domain diagram has now been updated as requested. So although I'm showing you how the inspector window works, I want to emphasize that what we're doing is improving our workflow, because we're being able to get information, we're being able to comment on elements, have a chat, engage with model mail, talk with our follow staff members wherever they are located in the world, and we're able to add new attributes, add new discussions. Here, now that we've created a new attribute, we need to run a test. So from the inspector window, I can automatically create a new test to say test the target audience. I'm going to assign that so that it's run by the process manager, and I can then add a description and add details. So it's really quite powerful that from one window, you can add attributes, constraints, scenarios, operations. You can link to files. You can create tests, maintenance elements, project elements, and assign resources and staff, all from the one location. So this really helps with collaboration, but the visualization element, you can quickly see everything that is associated with a particular element, and it's all there and it's one click away, which I find is really powerful and really quite beneficial. So we've added a test, and because we're going to test something, we also need a change. We need to implement that change, and we need to assign a resource. So I'm going to assign a resource for the project manager to actually create a use case to make sure that this change to our domain model actually works. And all of this has been done in less than 5 minutes, and it significantly improves the workflow for how you work and how you interact and how you get things done on a day-to-day basis. And you can see from the dialogue that you can set expected time and allocated time. So right now I'm going to switch back to our airport example to show something a little bit different. And this time, rather than a class diagram or domain model, I'm going to look at a Kanban diagram. Now, the thing I really like about Kanban diagrams is it provides that visualization aspect so that you can see what's pre-approved, what's in the queue, what's in progress, what's done, and that can be modified and those swim lanes can be changed. So here we have a COVID response for passenger screening. So what we want to do is we want to add a file, and I've added a link to Australian government guidelines for COVID response. And rather than being a local file, we can set that as a web address. And once we've got all those details, we can save that. So not only can you attach resources and attributes and links, but if you have a more comprehensive document, you can store it as a linked document, and you can even attach to files such as government legislation or government guidelines or other resources that might be valuable. In addition to being able to add files and tests and being able to visualize this all in a Kanban diagram, you can also very quickly create requirements. So you can create a user story or a requirement in a different format and add that to a particular model element. Here I've just said that we need to refer to government health guidelines and added that as a requirement. And so you can have multiple user stories, multiple requirements, and you can add project and resources to any element in the model and be able to keep track of it. Now, there's lots of information shown in the inspector window, but you can select what elements you would like to make visible. So if you're a BA and all you care about is requirements and files and perhaps some testing, then they're the only elements that need to be shown in the inspector window. So you're not overwhelmed with information and you only see what you need when you need it. In the Kanban, you can also assign resources. Now, by pressing the ellipse, you can select multiple human resources and assign those to a particular model element. And you can say how much is complete, the expected time, allocated time, and provide a description and history So let's say you have a 5-member team. Well, you don't have to do it 5 times. You can simply select those 5 people, provide the details, and instantly assign them to get work done. And you can visualize all that information within Enterprise Architect. And my final example here is looking at a use case just for something a little bit different. And you'll note that now you can see the relationships, but there's also scenarios. So you can edit scenarios and access them directly from the inspector window. So what I've wanted to show briefly in this particular example is that Enterprise Architect can be used to do a number of different features, and the inspector window can really help to improve the workflow. So right now I'd like to hand over to Estelle again, and we're going to this time have a look at charts and dashboards. So once again, feel free to resize the window so that it's appropriate at your end, and I'll talk to you again soon.
First, we'll create a dashboard diagram and begin by setting our perspective to publishing, dashboards and charts. Here we can see a couple of different charts to choose from, bar charts and pie charts. I'll select bar charts. We can see the diagram and chart element have been created in the browser. I'll edit the properties of the chart to give it more specific data. We want to chart requirements by author. I'll select Element, Author as the series. Then change the package to Model Requirements. For the appearance, we can see a range of settings, such as display legend, data labels, and the category of display, which in this instance could be bar or column. We can now see the resulting bar chart displaying requirements by author. Dashboard styles help organize and automate the layout of elements on a diagram. Here we can see a collection of charts and a dynamic chart. Go to the docked properties to set the dashboard style. We can see a number of ways to optimize the layout. We'll select horizontal, continuous, 2 charts to a row. Now as we adjust the position of the charts, the dashboard style applies automatic adjustments. We'll now add a dynamic chart to an existing dashboard. Dynamic charts are artifacts that are defined via the automation interface. We'll select Dynamic Chart Artifacts from the toolbox. We'll give the chart a name, Domestic Arrivals by State. We'll then define the style and content by editing the internal code. Here we can see the dynamic chart defined in JavaScript. Save the changes we've made. Then reload the dashboard to view the resulting dynamic chart.
All right, thanks, Estelle. So while I just get set up once again, I might just get you to talk about, I've had a few people ask, will this be available and will they be able to view it online? So perhaps you could talk about that, Estelle.
Sure thing, Scott. Spark Systems makes every webinar available for viewing after the event, so that's wonderful. I believe it's 24 hours afterwards you can expect to be able to view the video on YouTube, and
that's correct.
Wonderful, great. And about a week from now we'll go through the Q&A and make sure we've put together a lot of answers to your questions, and we'll post them on the Spark Systems website. So that's about a week from now.
And that usually takes a bit longer because sometimes the questions need to go to the dev team and sometimes they're of a technical nature, and we want to make sure
Certainly.
they're right before they're compiled and presented. And
Yes, and it's nice to have that kind of detail.
yes, that's correct. So there was a few other questions. I did notice that there was a question from Gillian, who's also presented in the past, and asked about when you're creating elements using the inspector window, where do they appear? Do they appear in the project browser, or the browser as it's now called? And so the answer is yes, it is. A lot of the things such as attributes and operations are done at a element level, so they are simply added to the element. But if you're adding scenarios or tests, they usually appear in the package that that element exists in. So after they're created, you might choose to move them to another location, but yes, they are created in the browser, and they are made available. So what I might do now is I might switch to our focus window, and I will talk about that. So in order to access the focus window, once again, it's very similar. You click on Start, Design, and select Focus, and you can appear, it appears on the left of screen. So you can see you've got model views, working sets, quick find, and revisit. So I'm going to start with working sets. Now, this is something I use all the time because I'm often switching between code engineering and business analysis and enterprise architecture. And when I'm doing that, I need different diagrams. So this first lot of working sets is for the airport digital transformation. Now, this assessment maps here, it was useful some time ago, but it's being completed now. I don't really need it anymore, and it's not relevant. So what I can do is I can simply right click and I can edit that working set, and I can remove the assessment map. Now, the hands there allow me to reorganize and restructure things so I can put them in the correct order. So I'm going to move the airport digital transformation Kanban up so that that appears in a better format. So now I can see those three elements. Now I can, of course, right click and say close all to close all my windows. And if you have 50 windows open, it's a really useful feature to clear the screen and get back to things. So this particular example is a Launchpad management example, which has test cases, use cases, and requirements, which might be used by a BA, for example. And then in my role conducting webinars, I have some webinar examples and some webinar details up on screen. Now, all of these working sets can be created, and you can select which diagrams you want to appear. And of course, you can delete working sets and edit them quite easily. So I've got one here, edit for demo, and I can delete that and get rid of that. So I find working sets really useful, especially if you're switching roles or if you're looking at one part of the model one moment, and then you want to quickly and rapidly switch to a different part of the model. So working sets, if you've never used them before, it's a great way to gain instant access to all of the diagrams that you need when you need them. And speaking of that, the revisit tab is also quite helpful because it allows you to revisit diagrams, for example. So I've brought up our airport ecosystem, and I can bring up our airport use cases. And if you use the same diagrams every day, then you'll want to be able to access them quickly. So that's quite useful. You can also access any recent documents. So I've got one here on the inspector window. Now, I also want to access the glossary. Now, this particular glossary is empty, but it's something I use quite often, and you can access files. So this happens to be the HTML code that I used for the invitation. But of course, the great thing is everything is being done within Enterprise Architect. So you have your windows, you have your diagrams, you have your HTML code or C code or C++ or whatever you happen to be working on. You have your use cases. And all of the material you need is available when you need it, and it's all within one tool, which is Enterprise Architect, which is also a very, very powerful feature. Next thing we're going to look at is Quick Find. So ATDT stands for Airport Terminal Digital Transformation, and so I can find any diagrams that refer to this this project. So it makes it really quick and easy to find diagrams. Let's say I want to quickly find elements related to our new safety project, then I can use Quick Find to access that. I can find these elements in the browser, and then I can also find in diagrams and bring those up as well. So I can quickly find diagrams and elements that I need using that quick find feature. And the final tab we're going to look at is the model views tab. And so you can create a new search folder, a new favorites folder. So if we create a new search folder, this one is going to be digital transformation. Now you can see that it says there's a checkbox there for refresh this search. So I'm going to look up ATDT again, and you can refresh it every day or every half an hour or every hour, which means you can see as the model evolves and you can conduct a search. So if you have a search that gets run 20 times a day, you can easily access that. You can also see recent discussions, recent documents, recent diagrams, recent elements. So you can see that there's a discussion on the webinar, which I used previously, and that's come up here, and it's all available. And there's also any formal reviews that have been done and any documents that have been created in the last day, 3 days or 7 days. So this is great for project managers and great for managing your resources. So that's really quite powerful. Now, the next thing I want to have a look at is something that not many people know about, but it's a slideshow. So you can see a slideshow is happening where it's showing multiple diagrams on screen. They're only appearing on screen for 3 seconds, but that's just because it's for demonstration purposes, but you can amend that. So I'm going to create a new slideshow called Webinar Demo. And all you need to do is you grab the diagrams that you want to showcase and you simply drag and drop them into this presentation. So it's really great if you want to show to key stakeholders or management and you want to show them 20 or 30 different diagrams in quick succession. Well, you can do that and get through it reasonably quickly and easily. And you can enable autoplay and specify how long they appear on the screen for, and then you can run the slideshow. You can also use this to create a favorite section with all your favorite diagrams. So it's a great way of viewing the model in a way that's relevant to your particular needs. So hopefully in some of those aspects of the focus window, you've been introduced to some topics and ideas that might help you in your day-to-day workflow and should be quite beneficial. I'm going to switch now to WebEA. So everything that I've created in this session has been done in a file called Summit Airport, but it's also being made available via the ProCloud server in WebEA. So you can see I can view the packages, I can view the diagrams, I can view the elements. And here's our inspector window that we created before. Now you can with WebEA enable model mail and features such as comments and notes so that people can add notes remotely just using a web browser via WebEA. So here I've just put some information called inspector details. And now if I switch back to Enterprise Architect and I hit N to bring up the notes window, I can see that information is stored in the model. So this takes collaboration that next step. So even people without Enterprise Architect, you can set your model up using ProCloud Server and allow people to add comments, to add resources, to add features and tests, and do that all remotely. What's really good about this is it's not a static document and it does allow for true collaboration because when you make changes to the model, then those become instantly available once you save the diagram. And it depends how you have the ProCloud server set up because it might check every 5 seconds or 2 minutes or 10 minutes, it might check the server and refresh. But that information is essentially available instantly on WebEA. So we've made some changes there to our element and we click desktop and we go back into WebEA and I'm going to use a watch list, which I think is a powerful feature in Enterprise Architect, and it shows me the 13 most recently updated diagrams. And you can see that it now says inspector and focus window and the notes have been updated accordingly as shown within Enterprise Architect. So what we've been able to do today in a fairly short period of time is we've been able to show some of the new features within Enterprise Architect 15.2. We've been able to talk about reviews, collaboration, and the focus window, and we've been able to cover a few other different elements. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to hand over to questions, but just while I get my slides ready, Estelle, would you be perhaps able to tell people how they might be able to download the trial and what version and build of Enterprise Architect we've been using today?
Right, wonderful. Well, if you just go to sparksystems.com, you'll find a trial in the main feature graphic of the website, and also in the top navigation, there's a nice pull down menu when you can download the trial of Enterprise Architect along with a trial of the Pro Cloud Server and Prolaborate. So that's really good to know.
Excellent. So we've got a few questions, so I'll jump to them now. The first one talks about WebEA and is it included with the EA subscription? So the short answer is no, you need a Pro Cloud Server in order to access this and to be able to use WebEA. But what I wanted to do, so Spark Systems has a Pro Cloud Server, which provides WebEA, and we also offer a product called Prolaborate, and these are tools that then take collaboration to that next level. So that's quite powerful. So Estelle, perhaps you could answer the question about why it might be useful to store chats and collaboration elements in the model rather than just have them separately in an email tool.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, the ability to simply connect to an element and create that collaborative history, it helps, you know, keep everything organized, I think, essentially. I mean, primarily, I think that's really what it's about. And
yeah.
Enterprise Architect,
I think following up from that is, it's not only is it keeping it organized, but you also have a way of tracking and managing those decisions. So in 3 years' time, someone says, oh, I'm sure I sent you an email giving approval for that document. Well, if it's stored in the model, it doesn't get lost. So yeah, that's quite powerful as well. Sorry, absolutely. I interrupted you. So what were you going to say?
No. It's like, you know, I think you've said it all. I mean, really the integration between collaboration and the work that you're doing is paramount. And that history is great.
So there's a question here from Linus that says, is there a user guide or related documentation for using the dynamic charts? So Estelle, would you be able to talk about how people can get access to help and
absolutely.
a user guide?
Yep, well, the user guide can be found online under support in the pull down menu. I am aware of there being the documentation. I used it to help make the video, so I'm sure we can make a link to the index of that particular section available in the Q&A afterwards.
Absolutely, and I think it's also useful that, you know, if you're going through the documentation and, you know, something's lacking, it's great to be able to let Sparks know so that we can make it better and make it easier for you. And one of the reasons that we create these webinars is to do exactly that and to try and address customer needs and to make it easier. And sometimes in a webinar like this, we can show how the features might be used, which gets people thinking. Now, the next question is from Julian again, and it's quite interesting. It's fantastic to have working sets make global feature now, and it says it would be great if we could get a global working set and allow it to open automatically when we open EA. And the very
Ooh, good
last thing
question.
I did in the webinar, but I didn't highlight it enough clearly, was if you right-click one of those working sets, you can make it the default so that it opens every time you open Enterprise Architect. So if you open Enterprise Architect on a day-to-day basis, and every day you typically have the same 15 diagrams or the same 4 diagrams opened, and that's where you work, and you can create a working set, you can make it default, you can right-click on it, and you can ensure that it opens every time Enterprise Architect opens. So it's a great question. And I did show it, but I didn't talk about it enough, so I apologize for that. But it's really great, and I really do find working sets like that. You can have 5 or 6 working sets, and I can be working on a problem from a BA standpoint, looking at requirements, and I can have a certain number of windows set up, and then I can switch to code engineering, and I'll have different windows and different diagrams, and then I'll switch to my marketing role, and I'll have link documents and text. And I find it really, really helpful for me to be able to quickly just right click on a tab and say close all and open up a new set of tabs, and it really helps me reset and get the day started. So
Yes, I do love that particular feature. It helps get my day going. I'll sit down with a coffee and just wait for every tab to open, and you know, sets up my day. It's great.
yeah, and I wanted to show in WebEA the watch list, because you can see what elements have been updated and what diagrams have been updated and what new discussions there are. And those watch lists mean, and you also have similar watch lists within Enterprise Architect itself, so that if things are happening and if there's a whole lot of changes that are happening to the model and you need to project manage that work, even if you're working from home, you can look at that watch list and you can see what's changed, or you can use the focus window to see what's changed. You can create your own custom searches so that you can see what things are updated that are relevant to you. So this all comes back to collaboration and how you can get people working together, even though they might be working remotely and working at different times. The minute you log in, you know what's happening in your environment. It's all in one tool, and it's all very, very easy to use. So with the, there's a question from Dean saying with the slideshow, and I think there's lots of people that may not have ever seen the slideshow feature before, and I think it's really quite valuable if you're trying to showcase to key stakeholders or to management, and you need to show them 10 diagrams, but all you want to do is show the diagram and talk to it. Then you can set it up in a slideshow, as I demonstrated today, and it really makes it quite useful. Had you seen that feature before, Estelle? Probably shouldn't
Yes,
ask.
yes, I had. Well, when putting together the release videos on the release page, I came across it, and yes, it's very interesting. And learning that you can change the time frame for the display, I think that's a really great thing to have shown them.
Yes, so you can modify. Now I set it at 3 seconds and 5 seconds just so that I could demonstrate, but you can make it much longer, and you can create a presentation, and you can manually go through and click through each diagram as well. So that's quite powerful.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
Dean
really
had a
depends on
question.
how much you feel like, how much detail
Yes.
you feel you need to go into on any one time.
On any one slide, yes, that's right.
Yep.
But sometimes it's just a great way of being able to take people through the information that's shown in the model. So Dean had a question that said, with the slideshow, can you export the output at all? And so I actually don't know about the output of the slideshow, but that is a question that I am going to take on notice, and I might ask the dev team about that, because I think there are some people that might like to capture that. And I know lots of people will export diagrams to a PDF document or a Word document, and people will take pictures of diagrams to put in reports. So I'll follow up with that about exporting the output of the slideshow, because I think there are some people that might find that valuable as well. So thanks for your question, Dean. And so there's a question, do we have the option to design charts in version 13 of Enterprise Architect? And some of the new features that we've demonstrated today aren't available in 13. So what version do people need, Estelle?
Oh goodness, I'm not entirely sure about that. It could be version 13, but that's something I would probably need to verify afterwards. The functionality that's new in this version is basically the dynamic charting, so the ability to script a chart, and also the dashboard, so moving those and automatically resizing them as you move them about to your liking. I know that the ability to create those bar charts and par charts has been available in prior versions, but where exactly that began, I would need to verify.
And so I suppose the safest thing to do is to make sure that you have Enterprise Architecture 15.2 so that you have all of these. But I would say that, wouldn't I? So I will probably start to just wrap things up now. So as Estelle mentioned, this webinar will appear on YouTube and sparksystems.com. Usually appears on YouTube within 24 hours and a week on sparksystems.com once we respond to some of these questions. We have a number of new EA 15.2 webinars in 2021, and so look forward to presenting those to you. And I think the next one that we have scheduled is another one in our EA for BA series with Nithya and myself. So that will be appearing in the next couple of days. So always check back sparksystems.com/webinars to register for new ones. I encourage you, if you haven't already done so and you don't have it, to download a free Enterprise Architect trial so you can try some of these features out for free for 30 days. And as usual, if you have any questions or ideas for future content, feel free to email webinar@sparksystems.com. And if you go to /webinar, it will take you to that webinar registration page. And if you go to sparksystems.com/webinars, it will take you to the webinar library. And there's over 100 different webinars that are available free of charge for you to view and learn about Enterprise Architect. So if you want to do some learning from home and learn more about Enterprise Architect, those resources are available, and we encourage you to look at those. So with that said, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. It was great to see so many people join us today. Lots of enthusiastic questions, and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thanks, Estelle, for your time today, and I think it's been great to have a different voice. People might get sick of my voice after a while, so it's lovely that you've been able to join us and to be able to contribute today. So thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
No problems. And with that said, I'll close the session down, and Happy New Year, everyone. Look after one another, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future. So bye-bye.